All right, in this section, we're going to look at the proteins that are suspended in the blood plasma, and they are albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen. Okay, now these are not dietary proteins. These are actually visceral proteins because they are made in the liver. All right, albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen are made in the liver. All right, albumin, which is a visceral protein made in the liver, is also a carrier protein. All right, here is an analogy. So we have a vehicle, so call it a taxi cab or an Uber. And what that is a carrier. And you are going to get into that carrier protein, and it is going to take you from point A to point B. And that is the job of albumin as a carrier protein. Something will get inside of it, and it will transport it. The albumin will transport it from point A to point B. Now, the reason for this is so that that product is not denatured as it's traveling around in the blood. Okay, so an example of a product that albumin will carry is fatty acids. And an example of a fatty acid is a triglyceride. Okay, TG is short for triglyceride. So tri is 3, the glyceride part. So the body will actually break this down into 3 fatty acids and to a sugar. So there's your triglyceride. Another is bilirubin. Okay, now bilirubin is a byproduct of when a red blood cell dies, and red blood cells live about 120 days. So when they die, the red part, and I'm oversimplifying this, but the red part is essentially broken down, sent to the liver, conjugated, and then converted into bilirubin that we eventually get rid of in our stool. So this is actually what creates the color pigmentation in our stool. Okay, now I skipped a bunch of biochemical processes, how it goes from a red blood cell into the color of stool, but the quick version is a dying red blood cell eventually gets sent to the liver. The liver will pull it apart, extracting that color part, and that's the bilirubin. Now, this is why people, if they have a liver disease, they have a condition called a jaundice. So instead of you getting rid of the colored part of the red blood cell, it starts to come out of the skin. Okay, so it's shown through the skin. So that's jaundice, and that indicates liver disease. Okay, another that attaches to albumin is thyroid hormone. Okay, again, these are carrier proteins. Now, other functions of the visceral protein is it helps with osmotic pressure. And the way osmotic pressure works is we have our blood vessels, and there's fluid inside of the blood vessels. Now, the question is, why does the fluid not just leak out willy-nilly, like basically losing all the fluid? Okay, why does fluid mostly stay within the tubes? The answer is osmotic pressure. Okay, so when you have a bunch of particles like protein suspended within the blood vessel, it's going to help keep that fluid inside of the blood vessel. Okay, so that's osmotic pressure. Okay, another thing that albumin helps with is it's a buffer. Okay, which means it resists acidity. Okay, so we have 0 and we have 14. So 0 is acidic and 14 is basic or alkaline. Okay, the human body likes to be around 7. Okay, especially 7.4, so a pH of which stands for potency of hydrogen. The blood likes to be around 7.4, so relatively neutral. Okay, so what happens is if you start moving in the acidic direction, a buffer is going to take you back to neutral. So a buffer resists acidity. Now, it's not good to be too alkaline and it's not good to be too acidic. So it's best to be somewhere in the middle, okay, around 7.4 being optimal. All right, the next protein is, this is a visceral protein, is globulin. So it is made in the liver and therefore a visceral protein, and it's also a carrier protein. And it will transport, so it carries lipids, carbohydrates. Okay, so CHO is short for carbohydrate, hormones, ions, antibodies, it's a buffer, so it helps you resist acidity, and it helps with osmotic pressure in your blood vessels. All right, the next visceral protein is fibrinogen. Okay, this is going to help with healthy blood clots. Okay, and the end goal with your healthy blood clots is to actually create fibrin. So fibrinogen is eventually converted into fibrin. That is a very complicated and long biochemical process that includes different factors. So factors 1 through 13 and some other ingredients. Those factors are made in the liver. And it also helps with osmotic pressure, helping keep the blood, the fluid inside the tubes. Okay, so that should help with the 3 different blood plasma proteins.